My name is Macey Gurley, and I'm currently an attorney who owns my own practice in Sparta, Tennessee.
Wonderful. And do you have any other outside factors that play into your current aspirations?
Yes, I am currently seeking the nomination for General Sessions Judge here in White and Van Buren County.
And what exactly does that mean, Sessions Judge? What would that play out to be?
Sparta is a very small town. Spencer is a very small town, and so we've received a lot of transplants or people who've moved here, and that's their most common question. What is this? The easiest way to describe it is a small claims court. I do not resolve felonies in my court. I would not impanel a jury or anything like that. Civil cases are capped at 25,000, so anything above that, you would go to circuit court. But the cases that a general sessions judge hears wide ranging. It's everything from probate to conservatorships to orders of protection, misdemeanor crimes, speeding tickets. Our general sessions judges, it's a tongue tie. Our general sessions judges have juvenile court jurisdiction. So juvenile delinquents, juvenile offenses, as well as dependency and neglect, DCS cases also go before it, divorce, custody, all of it.
How many people are you running against in this?
4 other candidates.
Do you feel that the fact that you're a female plays at all into any of your running platform, I guess?
Yes. So originally when I ran, I didn't know how to highlight that. I'm very proud of the fact that I'm the first woman to run for this position. I am now not the only woman. There is a woman that has joined the race, but that significance was not lost on me. And so it's not the only thing about me, but it's significant. Time and time again, when I talk to people, they tell me, their story or their experience with the General Sessions Court. But, I have a daughter, my cousins are little girls. And so seeing themselves in this position is so significant to me. So although it's not the only thing, I am very, very, very proud of the fact that I've broke that mold. Thank you. Thank you. That's a win already.
For you to be able to just expand upon all those different facets that you're running on and then still give a voice for women in small rural areas. I mean, representation is so important, especially when it's something that's so prestigious as law. Understanding all the different facets of our judicial system is a very difficult job. So I love how you are able to just say that you want that representation so your daughter can see that as well. So that really resonated with me. You kind of talked about probate court. You talked about juvenile court. Do you think that it would play out differently for you if you were having to hear court cases on juveniles? How would you feel about that being a mother?
So that is interesting. I have been practicing for going on a decade with my law school experience and then post. So I have a private practice. I've handled every type of case that's gone before a general sessions court. But what my favorite part of my practice is I am currently the guardian ad litem or the child advocate for every single child in White and Van Buren County. So at my everyday is seeking reunification between children and parents, terminating parental rights, removing children from their parents, finding appropriate placement. I work closely with the department, but being that child advocate. And so for a majority of my practice, I didn't have my daughter and I wasn't a mother. And so time and time again, my clients or the parents that I would work with would say that. They were like, well, if you were a mother, you would know. And I said, well, legally, I'm an attorney and I know. So that has certainly resonated with me. That obviously, I'm a lawyer and I have to weigh facts independently, and I have to look at things neutrally, especially as an advocate and a guardian ad litem. I have to hear both sides, the department side, the parent side. It has certainly taken on a more human element of that dynamic. Moms struggling with substance abuse who I know want to get clean for their children. I empathize, and it certainly, I think, has made me more empathetic to the situation. But also, I get it now. I get that love for a child, and it's heartbreaking to see someone struggle and not be able to make those decisions that are in the best interest of their children. And so I want all the parents I work with, although I represent the child, I am rooting for them every step of the way. And I did that before, but I really hope for their sake and their child's sake that they can.
With you working so closely, I'm assuming it's with the Department of Children's Services, right?
Yeah.
With you working so closely with them, what has felt like your biggest win in one of your cases?
Oh goodness. It is that child finding permanency, and permanency looks very, very different for every child. So I had one particular child who I love all my children, I say, and I call them my children because I'm there, I'm there when the foster parents take this kid to the beach and they see the ocean for the first time. I'm there at their graduations, maybe not personally if I don't get invited, of course, since COVID, but I'm there for that achievement. And particularly being in a small town, I see the kids I was guarding for that I might not have seen since their case closed, and case closes with that permanency, whether being placed with a relative or adoption. And so, I saw a kid last week at our local restaurant, and I hadn't seen her in about 3 years, and she said thank you. And it kind of got me choked up because so many times, I do my job and I love my job. But sometimes you don't, the law doesn't always transport to what you want to see happen. That's tough. That's probably the toughest. I might think something's in the best interest of a child, but the parents might still be unsafe, or they might want to be adopted and are reunified with their parents, and those struggles are heartbreaking. But having my kids find either that forever home or go back home is a win every time. I had one particular child who had real years in the foster care system, and he found his forever family, and he completely, so most of the time kids just change their last name at the adoption to comport with the adoptive family. This child, he was a teenager. He was 12 turning 13 at the day of the adoption, and he picked a completely new name because he said he was reborn. And that perspective and what these kids deal with has always stuck with me.
For a lot of children, having routine, having those scheduled activities, it makes such a difference. I had a very close friend who did foster care, and she said after so many years, she couldn't do it anymore because she had seen a child who was terribly neglected have to go back into that situation, and she said, I'd given everything I could, and then that was just taken from me. And I know that I hear it on the radio all the time. They're talking about it almost being like a foster care, what do they call it? Like emergency. Like the foster care system right now, especially in the state of Tennessee, is just, it's such a difficult and overwhelming process for a lot of children, for DCS workers. So it's really interesting to hear from the perspective of someone who's actually working in those court cases. Have you ever felt conflicted in a case where you felt like you didn't agree with the way things were going, or where you just took what happened in the end really hard?
As a child advocate or as a private attorney?
Just in general, just in general.
Sure. I do all these types of case, speeding tickets, landlord tenant stuff. So I do everything. The family dynamic with the legal system is what I have found the most interesting. It's really where judges have the most discretion, but it's really hard from an attorney's perspective to weigh a win or a loss. Um, I have had my best days in court. Cases come to mind. I've had my worst days in court. And it's always been with family related issues. And oftentimes, because, you're going through a legal process, such as a divorce or even termination of parental rights, but there are so many emotions behind it. And balancing those with, well, this is probably how it's going to work out in court, or these are the strengths of the case, these are the weaknesses, and managing those client expectations, but and managing the emotions behind it, and also saying, hey, make a decision regarding your children, or even let's determine assets, has been the most rewarding aspect, certainly, but it's been challenging, trying to explain that, hey, maybe not every injustice in your life, like I said, always is translated to the court system. It's been a really, really interesting balance between those two issues.
A lot of people, their jobs don't directly relate to how impactful yours is in changing someone's life. Customer service, you have those little things that you deal with and then it's over. But
Mm-hmm.
This is kind of like major life events for a lot of human beings.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think you had beautiful word choice on how you kind of described those different facets, because people don't really think about it from that point of view. They don't think about the plan afterwards. They just think about the steps leading up to,
Absolutely.
not, what happens if we go this way? What happens if we go that way?
Yes. And I try, because that is what I've seen over the years, is, like I said, that you have to think big picture, because at the end of the day, the court case is going to end. I'm going to go on to the next one. Not that it's certainly, a number that I go through, but these choices that you're making in this instance will forever impact, your financial situation. If there's assets involved, it will forever influence your children's lives. And so trying to talk them through that is I feel so key. Advocacy is what lawyers do, but counseling is a part of our ethics too, and it's so important, because I tell them, you might go into court and win this issue, but at what cost? Big picture. And I am a hired advocate, and so I will go that extra mile. I will go to court with that issue, but I really want them to do risk benefits with that, because it might seem like a victory in a short term, but not necessarily long term.
And is there anything that helps you set your mindset, or helps you set up the mindset that they need to be in whenever you're preparing cases like that?
I have a very practical personality. I think that helps. I feel that my law, a lot of people don't realize that, one, about the practice of law, how little court plays into it. But two, about law school, they don't realize that law school doesn't teach you the law. They teach you how to think like a lawyer. And that is so unique. My family tells me all the time, like, stop lawyering me. And it has totally transformed my brain. And it's analytical and it's problem solving. And sometimes people just need to vent to you, but I'm already like, this is what we can do. This is the plan.
Yes.
And so So that I felt that my law school did a very, very good job of, because the first year I think it kind of weeds out the weak. The second year you really get into the trenches, and the third year you're kind of coasting. And so the third year in my law school, they really encouraged us to intern at private firms for the DA, do whatever. And I had really good mentors that reminded me, be respectful to court staff. You might need them one day, and time again, clerks have saved my life, especially early on in my practice. But also, I felt that as much as the law was a part of the conversation, so was the human element. Like I said, you are meeting people on their worst day in a process that they know nothing about, and your job is to, of course, inform, advocate, counsel. There's a laundry list of things in what is a lawyer, what is zealous advocacy, things like that. And so I felt that stressing that from my law school has really helped me. And then the judge that I practiced in front of a lot, I interned with him in law school. So I saw kind of that adversarial perspective early in, and he has given me a lot of words of wisdom from a judicial side of it. This is what he sees on that side. So when I first when I first passed the bar and was sworn in, he told me a couple pointers, and those just really stuck with me.
I really enjoyed the way that you conveyed being with someone on their worst moment, and a lot of humans don't really think to the what ifs of the worst moment until they get there. So you being able to walk them through what this is going to look like and helping to prepare them, I mean, I'm sure that's life-changing for so many people who have worked with you.
I hope so.
What area did you intern at? Were you still in the same area when you were doing law school, or did you get to see different areas of Tennessee?
So when I went to law school, the reason I picked my law school is it was in Virginia. I was going to
Oh,
be a lobbyist and go to DC. I had a job
wow.
lined up, everything. I was going to change the world, and and I still can. But
You still are.
yeah,
Yes.
well, thank you. And so I interned with Judge Benningfield, and I came back to my hometown, and I appreciated, one, the local bar. That's the attorneys, not a what we call the attorneys is the bar. And they were really respectful of each other. They advocated for their clients, but it didn't seem as cutthroat as Virginia Beach and Norfolk seemed. And so I really saw, like I said, from the judicial perspective, the benefit and the impact that a judge could forever have on the individual, whether it's sentencing him to jail, or on the family, doing a parenting arrangement, a parenting plan. And so that is when I knew I wanted to come back. If you would have told me that I would be working with children and families to the degree that I am, I probably would have laughed at you. Because even in law school, after my internship, I loved criminal law. I thought that was very fascinating. The elements of a crime, it seemed as black and white as a case could be. And so it really wasn't until my third year of law school, like I said, they're really trying to put out feelers. I interned for the Commonwealth attorney. I interned with a family law attorney, and I loved it. I loved the aspect of it, but I loved, like I said, that advocacy is so much of it, but also informing them and advocating for them in a different way. But I loved being that neutral person, that kind of voice of reason, and saying, hey, this is the legal process and this is what you have to follow. So participated in a child advocacy practicum and knew, I was like, yeah, this is what makes sense for me. Formal education, 7 years. So I graduated from high school, got my undergrad degree, and you don't have to have your undergrad degree in anything particular. I went to law school with business majors, accounting majors, political science majors, fashion and merchandising. It's a real variety of majors that go to law school. Law school is 3 years for a full-time program. There are some part-time programs, like in Tennessee, there's the National School of Law. That's a 4-year program, and you can actually work a job and go at night. So they really make it workable for employed students or students who might have families that a full-time law school experience might not be feasible. And after 7 years of formal education, you get your Juris Doctorate degree. Take the bar exam, and the bar exam is what makes you a lawyer that can practice.
I feel like you had to just stay up for weeks studying for that final exam.
Yes. So, you go through 3 years of law school, and of course, 4 years of college, you take an LSAT, the law school assessment test. You take the LSAT, then you go to law school, and then the bar exam. It was so unnerving because you invest all this. Like I said, the first year is really to weed out the weak, the ones that don't want to be committed to this, and it's really grueling. The first year of law school is called the Socrates Method. So you brief cases, and I had never read a case from the Supreme Court before, and it is dry. And so you have to know, you have to read it, and then the professor calls on you, you stand up, and it's dialoguing, and you have to know it or you're going to be embarrassed. And law school is type A personalities, top of the class. It's smart individuals, driven individuals that you're competing against all the time. And a really, really humbling experience for me, because I graduated top of my class in high school, top of my class in undergrad at Tennessee Tech, and then just back to it was just grueling, rewarding but grueling, a bar exam. And I was like, I've devoted 3 years to this. What if I don't pass? And so after law school, you then pay to do a bar exam course. And so I was fortunate to have the support of my family during that time. And so I was able, so my professor, my mentor, told me, she said, if you could treat it like a job. So from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., I would go to the local library. I did it. I took a lunch break, but I did my course. I did my practice test. They gave me a conference room to allow me to study. I attribute my success to them all the time. Workers there would bring me coffee. They reminded me to eat, things like that. So and then I would take the weekends off.
That you had any real challenges because you were a woman going through this process?
Not through my education. Undergrad 2007 to 2011. My law school was 2011 to 2014. Women are starting to outpace the men in terms of lawyers, undergrad, law majors, things like that. I never felt that was a particular challenge. It was something, honestly, I never thought of. I was a woman, but I had the same opportunity. It wasn't until I entered a male-dominated profession that I realized, I have two things I feel kind of go not against me, but challenging is not only my age, but the fact that I'm a woman, being taken serious. And I don't know how much of it is the fact that I'm a woman and how much of it is because I'm young.
Is a huge issue in America right now. Do you think that I mean, I don't know how much you've looked into it, but do you think that you have around the same salary as someone else who has about the same experience as you in this field right now?
Yes. So I was actually talking to someone about that today. How we get into the media of, well, why do women make less? If a man and a woman enter the same profession, we're going to get paid the same initially, but because traditionally women, if they decide to have children or on maternity leave and take time off, because they're passed up for bonuses, they're passed up for going further in their career, advancements in their career. And so I think that is where that age wage gap comes from. Initially, I would say no. I worked for a firm for the first 2 years after passing the bar. And I outworked all the men. So I knew that because our income wasn't salary based. It was kind of, I know that it's, you eat what you kill type thing. I guess that's kind of, a very Southern way to say that. But you earned what you brought in, and so I knew I ran circles around the men, and I made sure to do it. Thank
I think that you having ownership of where your skill set is and being able to really articulate, the different steps that it took for you to get here and the different directions that you have been able to go through your field. I mean, it is just so insightful for people who are wanting to learn about law. With this upcoming election, because I love that I got you before the election,
you.
do you see any major challenges that are coming forth as you're kind of developing your platform, or you're thinking about different aspects that you're interested in for the community?
Certainly been hurdles. I have worked other people's campaigns. I interned for a congressman in college as well as law school. It takes on a completely different form when it's your campaign. I said everyone needs to run a political race for like one time and then get a repeat, because there's things that I would change. And like I said, it's really interesting doing a judicial race, because my hands are tied in many ways, and what I can say, what I can do ethically, just kind of uncharted waters on top of managing a practice. And I own my law practice, and there's other offices, so I rent those out. So being landlord, tenant, attorney, mom, politician has been interesting, all the different roles. But that's what I see. No, I guess particular challenge. People ask me, how's it going? Where are you at? I'm doing what I can. I'm confident in my race. I feel good about it. I feel good about the response. I am who I am, and I can't be anything other. So I feel good. Whatever, like I said, I've already won. The experience I've gained, just not only I'm in the community. Anytime my law practice can sponsor a sports team or bring donuts to teachers, or what, I am all for it. I grew up here. I love this town. And I love to be part of this community. And I love that me as an attorney can bridge that gap, because I'm a first generation lawyer. So all of this is uncharted waters as far as that's concerned. And I never interacted with lawyers like in high school and stuff. So if the high school's doing a mock trial team, I want to be there. Like, I'll be your biggest fan. I'll tell you what it's like being a lawyer, because I think it's so cool. I think it's so neat, what I can do and how I can help. It's so important to me.
I think you kind of went into the grassroots approach. You're visiting the schools, you're visiting the people that you're actually going to be impacting whenever you get to be a judge. And that is just, it's beautifully stated that you're willing to go that extra mile to walk into a classroom and be like, hey, let me tell you about law. I think that's That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Overall, what has been your favorite experience in getting to practice law?
That's a good question. I think it's celebrating the successes, because the true wins, the happiness of the clients, the peace in seeing that, because court is very comfortable for me, suing people is very comfortable for me. But I know that that's not the case for my clients. And like I said, especially the dynamic that I'm in, seeing that resolution on my client's face, that's everything for me. It's just so funny or interesting to me, because yeah, I'm a lawyer, but I tell everyone, because people are like, well, what, especially professionals, well, what do you do, what do you do? And I say I'm a lawyer, and they're like, oh. and I'm like, oh, but I'm so much more. I like to play trivia, and I horseback ride, and yeah, it's what I do, and I love it, and I love the way I can analyze a case. But it it is what it is. But I'm so much more too.
It's just like one facet of your personality, right?
Thanks. Yeah.
Your career does not make who you are.
No, it's rewarding, and I have such cool, like I said, experiences, and this campaign has really just augmented that. I would like to think that I would be in the situations that I am if it were not for the campaign, but the people I've met, how I've put myself in situations of just being tenacious and going for it. I have nothing to lose, and so having that, it has really, and like I said, doing, I've done some of the most interesting things. I have interesting things coming up, and I'm just so fortunate.
When you're talking about tenacity, do you feel that there are any other, I guess, personality attributes that really help sell you as becoming the next judge?
So early on in my campaign, you think judge, and even I, because I interact with judges all the time, I had this certain idea of what a judge should be. And so when people approach me, because I really did not anticipate running for judge, last year or anything like that. And so early on, I tried to be who I thought a judge should be, and I was miserable. I was muted. I was awkward. Lord knows what the people I interacted with thought. I didn't feel comfortable. I'm sure that came across, and multiple people who I love and respect kept telling me, be yourself. And I'm like, how much of myself do you want? Because I'm 0 or 100 and nowhere in between. And and I think that's a common theme for women in general. Be muted, be tough but not too tough, be smart but not too smart. And so that's why I keep really just saying I am who I am, and I can't be anything else. And I said I can't do this for another 8 months. And so I was like, hey, I'm going to run this race how I want to, and obviously I'll heed advice because I'm in uncharted waters, but I decided to be who I am. And so yes, I will have a beer at dinner, and if that is rebellious, so be it. I will be loud, I will be noisy, I will have fun. I will cut up. I will laugh at my own mistakes because I make them, and I'm honest about that. I was just telling someone at lunch today, what Facebook doesn't show, and I was going to a video interview, and I had on it was like a cream colored blouse, and I hadn't eaten yet that day, and so I got a sandwich, and of course I got mustard, famous last words, and it was all down the front, and I'm in a gas station bathroom scrubbing my blouse before a video interview that I was already nervous for because I'm not used to being, and it was the first interview for the campaign, and I was like, forget it. I just put my shirt on backwards and ran with it because it's like it's what it is. Yes. And that's the type of stuff that has made me better. I feel more authentic because I'm a very private person. I work with the public, and so I generally go home, and I'm in the public in a degree that I never expected to be in. And so that charade of me being someone else just was not going to sustain it. So truly being authentic to myself. And again, it goes back to my daughter. She's 4 going on 5. She's 4 going on 40 to her.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she thinks she's grown, and she doesn't need me, but she can't tie her shoes. So she'll keep me around. But seeing her, I was frustrated, and I knew she could see that. And nothing is more transparent about who you are as a person until you have a child and you see that reflected back onto you. And so I knew at that point I would not want her to be in that position of being muted or different in any capacity. So that's when I was like, I'm going to run this race how I want to. And I felt that feedback has been so positive, probably too positive because I'm just owning it at this point, but I'm going to roll with it. And it is exciting. And like I said, I am that person that is coming with 10 people who are just as excited to be at this fire hall for taco night. And we are just excited for the process. And my family I am the way that I am because of them as well. And that has just been so refreshing to me.
Like showing your humanity. I mean, a lot of women have difficulty with saying, I take ownership of my power and I'm not going to dim my light because you can't handle it, you know? Mm-hmm. And showing your humanity and showing that you're not infallible, I make mistakes. I have these things that I have had as obstacles in my life. I get nervous. I get overwhelmed as well. I mean, for me, that would be the type of person who I would want really making decisions about what's going to happen in my community. You talking about all of that really shows your empathy. And I would say empathy is probably one of the most important aspects in something like this, so
Thank you.
Very beautifully stated.
Thank you.
So to kind of wrap it up, do you have any words of wisdom or closing remarks for people who want to know more about the judicial system in Tennessee or about what the practice of becoming a judge would look like?
Don't be afraid to ask. Tap into your community resources, school resources. So I serve in my town on the high school advisory committee, and it's the bridge between the school and careers, because they're really trying to focus on, okay, I want to be a teacher, but what does that look like? I want to be a lawyer. What does that look like? So I host work-based students every semester. So you're in the thick of it with me. You sign a confidentiality. I take you to court. I take you to home visits. I am not going to hide the good, the bad, the ugly from you. Try to just keep an open door policy. So if there is an area of the law that you're interested in, check in local programs, especially through the school system. Talk to your guidance counselor, because that was really the connect. I didn't know White County High School. I went there, but they didn't have that when I was there. I didn't know that they did work-based programs with lawyers and stuff like that. And anyone who wants anything about law school, if I can remember it, and the practice of law, a political campaign, the judicial system. My every day is explaining the judicial system to kids, whether they're 2 days old or 17 and a half years old. So I'm happy to give you my contact information. I really want the court system, the practice of law, to be a positive profession. But I don't want them to be intimidated by it. I want it to be accessible to people and to individuals, and I want them to feel informed. I'm a firm believer that knowledge is power, and nobody can take it away from you. And the more you know, the more comfortable you are. So tap into those resources. Google, all that is just amazing. And I'm happy to help in whatever way.
Final question. How do you think your lifestyle is going to change? And we're going to just put this out into the universe after you have won this election.
Manifesting. So, yes, I am yes, I'm a big believer in manifesting. So, when I become judge, it will differ. I'm in the public eye so much. And that's what, again, I find so many things interesting because I've worked campaigns, but I've never worked a judicial campaign, obviously to this degree. And so I am a judge. And although you are a supporter of mine and a vocal supporter of mine, I love you. But I don't want you to expect favoritism in my court. And that is a key thing as far as this is concerned. Again, because it is a small town, I don't want people to think that, just because I'm friendly to them at a restaurant, they're going to get a better or worse day. Impartiality, fairness, treated with respect is so key. So I do anticipate I'll probably be a little bit more reclusive. Our ethical standard for judges is the appearance of impropriety. So that can be a lot. That is encompassing wide range. To some degree, like I said, me just kind of retreating a bit. But, that's one of my big campaign topics is I work for the public. I'll work for the public every day. And so I want to ensure that my every single vote is earned and that the people know that. So I expect it will be work in a much different way. I won't be in the homes, but of the children, but I'll be at court making those tough decisions too. So we'll have to, just because of my ethical standards, will change. But certainly the work won't. I'm ready to work.
Yes, ma'am. Well, thank you so much for all of these excellent responses. I can't wait to see how all of this turns out for you.
Thank you, Jade.